Welcome into the Four Verticals Podcast, episode 114 for this July 29th, 2025. A few more days left of July. We're heading into August, which means, in translation, that college football is close to being back. Camps are opening up, a lot of things happening, a lot of news, things to discuss. That's sort of transpired in the last 24 to 48 hours or so, 72 hours. We have spicy predictions that are back or continuing. 2025 team record projections continue on with Bama. Finally, I don't know how we forgot about them this far into the this far into the summer. And then we have our typical Q&A as well. So we got a loaded show for you guys. As I said on Twitter today and on the pinned tweet, just because other shows may be on hiatus doesn't mean our show is going anywhere. But we are full pedal to the metal, no stopping, no contract disputes, no controversy or anything like that. We are full blown college football, full to the metal, full to the pedal, all gas, no brakes. We are going straight forward into college football. And some NFL stuff, the Buccaneers, their camp is also beginning. We'll get more on that on Thursday, I think. Sort of let another few sessions go by, but there's also news regarding that as well. But just a lot of college football stuff to get into. If you're new here, which I think most of you are, if you're watching this live or on the replay, either on YouTube or on Spotify, first of all, welcome into the show. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. It's very important. This show's not behind a paywall. It's not on a Patreon page. I don't force you guys to give me money or anything. This show's all free. All the intel I'm giving you guys is all free and all available to you with no charge. And we want to keep it that way. This is independent media. Never talked to an advertiser before. Unless it's an advertiser that we trust and it's one that you guys will trust. We're not talking to anyone for the most part. Like, this is a show that is completely independent media. I'm not owned or controlled by any other overlord or anything like that. This is my show. I control it the way I want it to, and that's what it's going to be. And we talk about college football, talk about some Marvel, Star Wars stuff as well, peppered in as well, and some Tampa Bay Buccaneers stuff. But the main focus on this show is college football. Always has been and always will be. And we have a loaded show today. And, of course, we are high atop yet again, a oven-like, furnace-like Jacksonville, Florida for like the 10th day or whatever it feels like. It's only been 4 days, I believe, 4 days in a row. It's been like this. But thankfully, we're going to get some relief. I checked the radar, as we typically do this time of the day. And unlike this weekend where it was just, bone dry, just complete excruciating heat, we're finally getting some rain here in the downtown areas. How about that? Hopefully we're getting a break, if you will, from the meteorological furnace, as I mentioned on Twitter, just before we hop on the show, with sort of quote tweeting from the program, if you will, sort of, Lewis Turner, chief meteorologist over at First Coast News a little bit ago. But yeah, we got a loaded show. As per usual, we'll start out with our spicy predictions, but real quick, I'm going to fix speaking of the heat, the fan is not blowing directly on my face, so I'm going to fix that here real quick, so stand by. Okay, that's much better. Yeah, that is much better now. I was a little bit misaligned there with the fan. As I mentioned, it's been hot here, and having a little space fan is a good thing to have, if you will, especially around this time of the year, especially here in Florida. And actually, before that, I'm going to get some water, make sure we're ready to go so the voice doesn't go, and then we'll get started. All right, now we can finally start now. It took me a while to get started there, but here we are, no less. Spicy predictions. We've been doing this for the past, I don't know, four plus weeks, about a month or so now. It's been a great addition to the show. I think a lot of you guys are liking it. We have somewhat of a heavy Big Ten laden spicy predictions here, which was not really intentional, but whatever. But yeah, we have some Big Ten schools featured on here, and one other school that's not Big Ten related, but certainly an interesting spicy predictions segment here. Of course, if you're new here, if you're wondering how this works, we have our own scale. This is sort of like bold predictions, but instead of calling it bold predictions like everyone else calls it, we decided to take a different approach on it. So how it goes, mild, means could happen. That means that prediction could definitely happen. Warm is maybe more on the fence on that. Hot, slightly more unlikely that will happen. And then spicy is totally not going to happen. Would be just something I cannot comprehend happening, at least in my opinion. And of course, we will revisit all of these, by the way. Reminder, we will revisit all of these by the time we get to like January, December, once we get past the regular season and some around the playoff time, if you will. If we have, around that time, especially if we have time during in between the regular season and like when the playoff starts, we'll start doing that. But yeah, we'll revisit these by then. First one for today. We usually do around 3 to 4. It's 3 today. First one. Both P4 teams in the state of Michigan make a bowl game at least. This is slightly unlikely. Now, you may think to yourself, well, yeah, one of them's going to make it, and certainly the other one could, being Michigan State, and then our first one being Michigan. The reason why I have this as hot because I don't believe Michigan State's making it to a bowl game this year. I just don't see it happening. While their schedule, there's a path here, a very narrow path to where they could make a bowl game, right? So you get your in-state G5 team. You get Boston College at home. That's a night game on NBC of all the choices they chose that one. Okay. You get your local regional FCS team, and then the rest of your Big Ten schedule commences here. It's like at USC, at Nebraska, UCLA, Indiana on the road, Michigan at home. Speaking of Michigan, rivalry game, Minnesota on the road, Penn State, Iowa on the road, Maryland. Well, there's a path to where you could start 3-0. I have a very hard time believing you could win 3 more games after that. And that's even if you beat Boston College, which is not a guarantee either. So this is sort of where this prediction sort of falls apart and why I find it very hard to believe this will happen. There's a narrow path, though, right? If they can start 3-0, beating Boston College and Michigan State, can you find 3 wins on this schedule? Is it UCLA's, Indiana's, and Maryland? Possible. Minnesota on the road? I don't think so. Penn State at home? Doubt it. Not to mention, too, the roster at Michigan State is just atrocious. I mean, you have Aiden Childs, who some people will call, still to this day, call me Aiden Chili's. What the guy's last name's after a restaurant? No. You still have Aiden Childs there, Jonathan Smith, who I like as a coach, and I think he'll be given time there to sort of build, you've laid the foundation last year. Yes, Aiden Childs channeled his inner, 2019 Jameis Winston with like a lot of touchdowns, a lot of interceptions and turnovers. If you can just at least calm down the turnovers, not be the whoopsie daisy king, and maybe the offense is more efficient, defense, maybe there are some guys who step up. We'll see, but I highly doubt this is going to happen. I think Michigan is way more equipped to make it to a bowl game at least. Now, of course, there's other pressure with Sherrone Moore and this idea of new quarterback there coming in, 5-star kid. Why am I forgetting his name? Why am I forgetting the guy's name? Anyway, regardless of, I can't believe I forgot the quarterback's name. Who is? Why is his name escaping me? Let's see here. Michigan. I should know this. His name. I don't know why I'm blanking on the 5-star kid's name. Bryce Underwood. There we go. I don't know why I forgot his name. That's rare for me. But yeah, of all these folks, you have Sherrone Moore in the hot seat. You have Bryce Underwood, who I forgot his name for some reason. Touting Bryce Underwood as some like czar. He's going to come in and like save Michigan football in year one. Though I don't think he's going to turn out to be like Heisman Trophy winner in his freshman year. I have more confidence in them making it to a bowl game for sure, or at least securing one, than I do Michigan State. So that's where that sort of falls apart. Man, I can't believe I forgot. And Bryce Underwood's name. I just don't know why. Brain fart. Very rare for me to have that. Next one here, staying in the Big Ten again. Wisconsin is a major surprise team. This is a spicy. The second one I believe ever we've had on this segment, a spicy prediction that was spicy. I don't think this is going to happen. Maryland's former quarterback, Billy Edwards, I believe is going to be your starter, Billy Edwards Jr. So there's other Billy Edwards. I guess that's his father. He's going to be the starter. I have a lot of faith in him, isolated outside of everyone else. I think he's a good quarterback. He had good numbers last year from Maryland, but the rest of the team is not very good. They, being Wisconsin, I think have like a Thursday night game again. Like last year, it's like they're the regional G5 team. And then you get Middle Tennessee, so you should be 2-0. Though Miami, just be careful of that. Miami is a very prominent program. Not Miami from the ACC. It's Miami of Ohio. Chuck Martin, very good coach, been there for well over a decade. Don't sleep on Miami of Ohio. I haven't checked the spread on that game yet, but I'd imagine that's not a big line. More likely so. Just beware of that game. Just keep it on that game if you're keeping track of potential upsets week one. So figures they should be 2-0, then it gets real in a hurry. Bama on the road, probably a guarantee loss. Maryland, we'll see. Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon on the road. It's a total death march of the schedule. I don't think it's going to happen. And at the same token, I do have concerns about this coaching staff and Luke Fickell, and I thought he was going to work out there. And I totally thought that it was going to be, not like a guarantee that it was going to be, 10 to 11 wins, but just, it's the combination of you bringing him in, the state of the Big Ten, it's a little bit different now. Conference expanding, there's no more divisions anymore. It's not like you're taking advantage of a horrible Big Ten West and being the sacrificial, being like you're being sacrificed to the not SEC East, to the Big Ten East opponent, whoever that was going to be. That's not that anymore. Not to mention you have other teams that are better than you or at least equal to you in talent. Oregon, USC, UCLA, Washington. So now your schedule's even tougher now. So there's more losses on your schedule than not. And I just think it's been a very tough year there from Maryland, for Wisconsin, and I guess Maryland too, even though that's not the topic here. But I don't know, man. I just I really have a bad feeling that this is going to be a pretty bad year for them. Despite the fact, again, I like Luke Fickell as a coach. He's not a stupid coach. I think he's fairly competent. I think he knows what he's doing. He's not dumb, obviously. I mean, look, they hired him for a reason. And look, you can agree and disagree about, how the Paul Chryst era was going towards the very end. Obviously, we didn't have a show back then, but I think the narrative was, or not the narrative, but just the consensus around the media was, look, they were falling on hard times. It wasn't necessarily it wasn't going anywhere well anytime soon. A change was sort of needed, so for a breath of fresh air. Fickell comes in, they try to run that sort of kind of spread option stuff, sort of like what Rochefort was doing at Michigan a long time ago, back in like 08, 09. Sort of similar, it just didn't work. So now they're reverting back to more of a traditional, Barry Alvarez style of offense, and we'll see how it works. Maybe it is just a upgrading quarterback. And look, you can't really fault everything last year on Luke Fickell and how it went. You lose Van Dyke early in the year. Yes, he was struggling before that, and we don't fully know how it would have looked if he was still the starter and he grew up in the offense. Maybe he cut down the turnovers and whatnot. We don't know that because that didn't happen. And I don't have, Dr. Strange level powers to, go back in time and go to an alternate timeline when that didn't happen. So all that to say, Wisconsin being a major surprise team based on the roster, the schedule, no, that's not going to happen. And I put this at a spicy, totally unlikely, not going to happen. Of course, I say that, and come December, January, and February, we sort of go back to all of these and revisit all of these, and it turns out I was wrong on that. So we'll see. Last one here, Boise State makes it back to the CFP. This one, again, is a hot one. I don't think this is going to happen. Look, I mean, I understand with this whole, of course, you saw this a lot last year with, it's the 12-team playoff. These G5 teams will get in. And look, I've looked at the schedule for Boise State, and you can look at it and look, it's not overly difficult. You have I stress this, one game on your schedule this year. That is your Super Bowl. And it just so happens to be on the road at Notre Dame. Besides all of that, I mean, it's like South Florida, Eastern Washington, Air Force, App State at home, like Fresno State and your other teams in your conference, the out there in the Mountain West. And, you're losing Ashton Genty. You bring back your quarterback, so that's good. Madsen's coming back, so you have him coming back. But just the talent there, it's not necessarily a talent-rich team necessarily. You lose a guy like Ashton Genty, that's really hard to replace in terms of caliber of athlete. And look, we'll see. And look, they could enter the Notre Dame game undefeated, and it could be a battle of top 25 teams. And who knows? But this one's in the hot category. It's more or less unlikely. Now, look, is there a course? Is there a path they could get in? Could they beat Notre Dame? Could they find another workhorse running back? Could they run the rest of the schedule? Because, again, outside of Notre Dame, I don't see another game where they're going to be a dog in, right? Like Utah State, no. San Diego State, as much as I like Sean Lewis as a coach, no. So, look, if they go undefeated or 11-1, could they be in? Yes, but I don't know, man. Look, again, the talent level, you lose so many – excuse me, a burp there. So many of the workhorses of your team, especially Ashton Tinty. And, of course, you bring back Madsen, but he wasn't your focal point of your team. It wasn't like the dynamo of your team. That was your running back. And it's hard to replace that heart of that team immediately after those guys leave. And, look, is it impossible? No, but it's very hard to do. So Boise State making it back to the CFP, I doubt it. And, again, look, I could look stupid here in a few months, and they once again are back in the playoffs and with one loss or who knows, undefeated, and they beat Notre Dame. So we'll see. Spicy predictions, a very good segment, and it was a very long, well, not that long segment, but I think those are very good ones, very interesting ones, no less, to bring up. When it's from water here, and then we'll touch on this DJ Lagway situation, bit of a developing story. Again, if you are new here, like I said before, welcome in. Again, make sure to subscribe to the channel, podcast feed, Twitter as well. Follow me over there. And just make sure you do that. Again, this show is completely free of charge. Not planning to paywall. I don't ask you guys to give me money or anything like that. The show's completely free, right? And we want to keep this show free, and want to have you guys have access to this. I know for a lot of you, it's I've done it. It's happened to me before too, right? Where you go to the ESPN article, and it's a really good one. And it's like, oh, I'm to pay a wall, going to pay money to read the rest of it. And look, I get it in the current world of the media, and we'll touch on this actually later in the show in the Q&A. With the way legacy media is going, I think the incentive of having a sort of like a paywall type feature, especially for a lot of newspapers and stuff, I get it. I understand that. There's a reason for that. But still, as a consumer, it sucks. But nothing we can do about it, but at least on this show, it's free. And everything we offer to you guys is completely free of charge. I'm not asking you guys not asking you guys to give us any donations or nothing. We are, if you want to, that's fine, but we're not requesting it or anything. And again, we'll never put this show behind the paywall or our Patreon page or anything like that. No, we're not ever doing that. At least, not. As long as this show is independent, we're not doing that. So. Speaking of, as long as things are okay, I guess, DJ Lagway. So we know back in the spring, if you want to, wind back the clocks back to March and April, we know that he was, limited in spring, sort of, not throwing the ball as much, Bill Napier's being sort of coy, hush about it. Then it turns out there was some stuff going on, some medical stuff, the idea was it'd be fine, it'd be okay as long as he's ready to go versus Long Island, which is a real team you're playing week one. They should be okay to go. Everything's fine. But then it comes out from a lot of various places, including On 3, that DJ Lagway's dealing with yet another injury ahead of training camp or fall camp. It's apparently a non-football related thing. I've heard different things. It's it may have been a weight room thing. He was in a boot. At least, or a assistant walking thing. I don't know what you call it. It's not really like a traditional, I don't know. I guess a boot's kind of one way to describe it. I guess like a bandaged foot or whatever. I guess you want to use a medical boot. Yeah, I guess you can say that. I've always thought that's kind of a weird term to say. It's not. It's a medical. It's like a medical thing. I don't know. But anyway, he was wearing that this week apparently on campus. A lot of people saw him, and it turns out that is true. How concerned am I about this? Well, it's a funny thing with this injury stuff, right? Because again, a lot of this stuff is doing the HIPAA stuff, which is the medical, the Hippocratic Oath and whatnot. And there's a lot of things you can't reveal unless they just voluntarily do it. I don't think we've heard anything officially from Billy Napier. I know there's been the stuff officially or on a supposedly official stuff from the school, but officially from Billy Napier himself, I haven't heard anything. I believe that's confirmed. But I'd imagine as we get closer to camp starting, we'll probably hear more about this. He'll probably address it. How concerned am I? Well, at the moment, again, I have no other information besides what we know. He was in a boot, medical boot this the past few weeks. Apparently, there was something that happened. How significant is it? We don't know. Am I concerned? As long as he can, be ready for Long Island, I'm not too concerned. If it turns out, though, as we get closer to the week before Labor Day, and this is still a thing, then I'm concerned. The reason why a lot of us are so high in Florida, the reason why a lot of us think that Florida could be a sneaky team in the SEC, I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship or anything. I think that's not what we're saying. I just them taking an extra leap, sort of yet again reaffirming that Bill Napier is the right guy for the job, which I still think he is. Again, I love this stuff. Organizationally, he gets it right. The whole thing about the hiring all of the assistant coaches and the 50 or so polos and the team and the team photo and whatnot, which is of course the Saban thing, which a lot of folks find out annoying. It's like, to me, it's like, I don't know, like if you want to hire a big staff and go ahead, right? And I think from what I've heard from people behind the scenes, whether it's like Josh Payne on his show and whatnot, structurally Florida's fine. The on-the-field results just haven't been good enough, and I think DJ Lagway plays a major factor in this, is because he is a dynamo, right? He is the nucleus or the nuclei, plural nucleus, which is a real term, not Sony who made it up. He is the nucleus of this team. He is the only reason why they will win all these games. Sort of like, I know it's not the best comparison, but kind of like Anthony Richardson a couple years ago. And I think this guy is way better than Anthony Richardson was in college, but it's very similar. Like AR, Anthony Richardson at Florida, not in the NFL, that's totally different, was dynamo for Florida. He was the reason why they were winning games or at least competing in games. DJ Lagway is that times 100. Like, he is uber talented, can run around. He has a good arm as well. All the things you need for him to be successful. He has all the tools. And unfortunately for Florida, if he were to go down, you will unfortunately see results similar to the Texas game, which, if you guys remember, sort of is a bit of a revisionist history type of thing where people assume that was DJ Lagway in Florida. They got blown out. Well, no, that was the kid from Yale, the walk-on kid, because remember he got injured before against UGA here in Jacksonville. So that's so if you're a Florida fan, if you don't have DJ as your starter for your team, games like the Texas game are going to be, I'm not saying guaranteed, but they're more likely. You're going to have a total drop-off, right? Just a complete drop-off. It's just like deflating a balloon, right? That's the worry, right? That's the worry for Florida. That's been the worry for me, that as long as you can keep DJ healthy, no mishaps, right? No, injuries. I don't want to hear anything about, oh no, he's not going to practice today, or he's not throwing today, or he's wearing a non-contact jersey. As long as I don't hear that, as long as he's healthy and whatever this injury is, it gets resolved. As long as he's ready to go for Long Island, that's all I care about. If it's not the case, then that's when I'm starting a little bit concerned, because their schedule, again, it gets real in a hurry. They play Miami a little bit after, they get LSU, I think in some order. Of course, you get Texas A&M on the road. It will get real in a hurry, and unfortunately for them, they need him to be successful, because if they don't, again, it's not a guarantee, but you're going to have more or less results like you had against Texas last year. So I don't think this Florida team, without DJ Lagway, at least if you were to do like the power rating stuff, and I think Josh Pate would agree with me on this, Florida with DJ is a top 10 team. Florida without him is the way down the list. Like, they are down like in the 50s or 40s. So they are not, their talent level without him, sort of like taking away a nice furnished landscape of a house. And then you see the rest of the house and it looks decrepit. That's Florida football, right? Like, DJ Lagway is the beautiful lawn and the nice landscaping. Take that away, it's very bare bones, and that's my concern. So yes, right now I'm not too concerned. I'm keeping an eye on it. If it becomes an issue, like if we get all the way to game week versus Long Island of all teams, and he is not, and he's still in this same situation, then I'm concerned. But at the moment, I'm not concerned. Okay, so we still have a long time in between then. So who knows? By the time we get to August 18th or whatever, and he's fully fine now, he's running with the first team, he's doing well in the scrimmage, then you're okay if you're a Florida fan. You're breathing a sigh of relief. But if this is the case and this continues to get worse, may have to rethink my thoughts on Florida, and certainly I think a lot of folks in the power ratings world will also recalibrate. Or in the words of others, or curbing your enthusiasm, if you will, about Florida. Moving right along here, we got 2025 team projections. We got Q&A. We need some more water here, and also going to check the radar and see what the storm situation is like. As I mentioned at the top, just checked, and at the moment, of course, as we're live on here on YouTube now on Spotify, this is kind of redundant, but not too much rain. But of course, I say that, and then an hour after we conclude the show, it's pouring down rain outside. So 2025 team record projections. We've been doing this since May 1st, literally on the first day of May. It was a Thursday. We had our show. We started out with Florida State. Now we're getting to Florida State's opponent, Alabama. Crimson Tide. Last year kind of was what it was, 9-4, killing the Boars first year. You had Jalen Barrow, who I guess to a certain extent you can make the argument he was sort of been an example of a bipolar quarterback, where it's, are we getting the good Jalen or the bad Jalen? Are we getting the healthy Jalen, or the 100% healthy Jalen, or the Jalen that's going to need a whole bunch of aspirin and ibuprofen after games? In the words of Josh Pate, I kind of agree with that. I think he was holding them hostage last year, and I think also the lack of balance on offense, the inability to run the football, which again, I think a lot of folks get this confused with guys like, Kalen DeBoer, who think, and, mainly him and Josh Heupel, I think, who assume, oh, these guys are air-rated guys, they run like the Mike Leach stuff. What they don't, again, Kalen DeBoer, if you go back and watch his teams at Washington, and before that, he was the OC at Indiana, and then Fresno in between that, his teams run the football, and they did not run the ball last year. And I think bringing in Ryan Grubb, who is now finally in Tuscaloosa after so many attempts of trying to get him there, whether it's Nick Saban a couple years ago or Kalen DeBoer last year, I think there will be an emphasis on them running the football. I'm not going to say it's going to be total joyless murder ball, an old term that was coined by a Louisville radio host. It's not going to be joyless murder ball, but it's going to be kind of close to it. I do think that they may have the personnel to do it. You have J.M. Miller coming back. He's a good running back. Again, regardless of your quarterback, I think as long as you have a good running back staple, and of course J.M. Miller is one of them, you should be fine. And of course, you also have the freshman A.K. Deer. You also have all of your returners. Jalen Proctor, the best offensive tackle in college football. Ryan Williams, the best receiver in football, probably him and Jeremiah Smith. Quarterback thing, Ty Simpson, him being the starter, no problem. I know a lot of folks who wanted Austin Mack to be the starter, is what it is. And you also have Keelan Russell, the freshman. Now, it's really interesting. Whenever you have these teams of these freshman quarterbacks, right, these uber talented guys, you saw this with go back to Clemson a couple years ago with Trevor, DJ last year, DJ Lagway. It's not that you won't see him, because you will see him. You will see Keelan Russell on the team, whether it's like a wildcat package or like a goal line running QB package. You're going to see him. That will he be the starter the full year? Will he eventually be the starter? I don't know for sure. There's obviously an avenue you could, but in my opinion, I think Simpson is going to be, he is the starter. I think he will stay the starter, but look, is there a path that Keelan could come in, especially if the season goes off the rails somehow? Yeah, it's not impossible. I think there's strength, though, and I think the thing that a lot of folks are missing on a little bit, we're not missing on, just not really, I guess, catching on to, it's their defense. I think Bama, with guys like Damani Jackson and Jahad Campbell and Tim Smith, a lot of these guys are older now. Like, for example, if Jackson, Campbell, and Smith, those three guys in particular, they're now juniors and seniors. And these guys are veteran guys. And I think Bama's secondary could be one of the best in the country. Certainly definitely one of the best they've had in a while. Like, definitely, I'm not guaranteeing this, but what I'm hearing and the vibe I'm getting is that this Bama defense could be as good as it was in 2016, where you had like Eddie Jackson and all of those, the knots, if you will, the non-offensive touchdowns they scored that year. Again, my guarantee they're going to be able to do that, like replicating that from that year and back in 2016. But this is going to be close. They have a lot of good athletes over there, a lot of good players that have come from recruiting classes, top of recruiting classes. Most of them, again, are from the Saban era. Some are from the Borzone era. They should be fine. Akeem Mack, I have full confidence. This could be his best defensive unit he's had there, or he's had in his career ever. They should be great on that side of the football. Again, offensively, I do think there will be a emphasis on running the football and your receivers. Of course, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard is back as well. Again, Jam Miller should be your featured back. Again, I really do believe that they will, Alabama, emphasize running the football. Again, whether it's, is it going to be that joyless murder ball that most of you are used to if you're living in like Pickersville, Alabama, Hamilton, Alabama, Bessemer, Alabama. Yeah, it may not be necessarily that. Going back to the old Saban days back in like 2012, 2011. But they have potential to do it. They have the talent there, but it's just whether or not they can, have it gelled together, and maybe we start to hear some stuff from fall camp that hey, their offensive line's doing well, and they run the ball really well. If I start hearing that, if I were a Bama fan, makes your ears perk up a little bit, right? So all that being said, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think Kellen DeBoer is the right guy for the job. That coaching staff, top tier, no problems whatsoever. Their schedule, though, well, it may have seemed tough maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe it's not as tough as we thought it would. Now, look, there are tough games in the schedule for sure. But unlike last year, we had to play most of these on the road. Again, most of these at home. They're big games. So they start out with Florida State. We'll eventually do that preview when the time comes. You get your regional G5. Wisconsin, you have 2 P4 teams in 1 year in the non-con. Pretty rare for Bama, which is another topic in itself. Right? Because you guys, if you guys remember, it's been a couple years. Bama under Saban especially would have the habit of, playing all these teams in, like Atlanta or in like Dallas or Orlando. And it was like very boring. It was a neutral site game. And I think it is interesting how that sort of narrative turned, and a lot of folks and outside critics were like saying, hey, look, Bama, we get it. You want to, play all these good teams, but at least play them on campus, and stop doing this stupid neutral site half-baked, solution to that. So finally they've addressed that. They're actually playing games on the road, and they're being kind of challenged, right? Texas a couple years ago on the road and home. Wisconsin, not so much. Last year, now you get Florida State and Wisconsin in 1 year. So in the non-con, it may seem a little bit tough, and I think out of all of the 2 games here between the 2, I think the Florida State one's definitely the most challenging, is on the road and early in the year. Wisconsin, not so much, as I mentioned earlier on the show. Journey spicy predictions. So the non-con, at least in the first 3 games, Florida State somewhat difficult. The others, I don't have much of a worry about those. Then it gets thrown in a hurry. You get your bye week after Wisconsin, and then on the road to Athens, Georgia. We'll have a lot more to say about the game once we get closer to it, but I guess there's a bit of a preview. That is going to be the most toxic game of the year for the loser, especially. It's going to be essentially a national tragedy for whoever loses that game for the fan base. It's going to be, whether if you're in Alabama, the state of Alabama, or in Georgia, as someone who's I have history in both states. Whomever it is that loses that game in one of those states, it's going to be a national day of mourning for sure. And it's going to be a tough week, or really a tough year if you lose that game. And I don't care what anyone says. You can say, the games have been devalued now because of the 12-team playoff. And well, I do agree with that. We still have games like that Georgia game that do matter for a lot of folks, especially in the southeastern region. Then you get, after that, Vanderbilt. Hopefully you get your revenge there. Missouri on the road could be an interesting, sneaky game. Tennessee, it's at home, thankfully. South Carolina, raise your eyebrows at. It is October, by the way. End of, very end. So just keep an eye on it. LSU after that, I think there's a bye week in between. I think. Yeah, there should be a bye week in between that. So you get LSU at home, Oklahoma at home. So I get your FCS team, then Auburn on the road. Looking at all of that, the schedule, the team, how I feel about the program right now, at least not program in general, but just this year's team. I think the best case scenario is 10-2. Again, based on what I feel about their defense and how good it's going to be and how better they are this year and how more organized they should be, and especially with the offense, hopefully again, they emphasize running the football. They have a lot more talent than all these teams on their schedule. Now, there's a couple games here, again, I've pointed out that I think they could lose, right? The first thing I think that pops into your mind is the Georgia game. Yes, they could easily lose that game. After that, I think South Carolina's on that list of games they could lose. Missouri can be on that list. LSU especially can be on that list. Auburn can be on that list, although that's more of a we'll see. But certainly South Carolina is definitely up there after Georgia. Missouri's on there and LSU. So there's a path there where they can go 10-2 as the best case scenario. Worst case, those 8-4. This would be definitely a doomsday scenario. Back-to-back 4-loss seasons. This time in the regular season, which would be a huge disaster for the Bama fan base. I totally agree with that. Is it fireable for killing the board? I don't think so. I don't think. But I do know, having experience in the state of Alabama, being around a lot of Bama fans, I don't know if they would take that as I don't know if they'll take that lightly. I'll just say that. So there'd obviously be a ton of pressure going to year 3. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, the 8-4 thing, I mean, look, you can go back to the schedule. Look, it's, I don't know, maybe you lose to Florida State. Maybe you do lose to, Missouri on the road. Maybe it is South Carolina. Maybe it is LSU that gets you. And look, those teams are talented in their own right? Well, South Carolina was challenging for you last year and have to go on the road and play them in October of no less of all months. Then get LSU after that. It's a rivalry game, and yes, there's a bye week in between, but I don't care. LSU is also going to be a very, very experienced, maybe the best wide receiver room Bama would have faced all year at this point. And then there's Auburn, of course, at the end of the year. And, of course, by then, is Auburn fully bought in? Are they a good team, or is it a team that's on quit watch, or they've already quit and there's an interim coach already and whatnot? So based on all of that, looking through all the scenarios and what I believe of Bama, I know I drank the Kool-Aid last year. I know I think I picked them to go 10-2 last year, I believe, or 11-1. I'm going to do it again. I think their most reasonable scenario is also the best case, 10-2. I just think this year, unlike last year with the chaos of killing the board coming in and, having to essentially, bubble gum and paperclip your way into getting that roster stuck together and hiring coaches and losing guys. I just think this year it's a little more organized, more buttoned up. You bring in Ryan Grubb. I think with him coming in, there's more of an emphasis now running the football. I think you have a guy in Ty Simpson or either Tim or Keelan Russell. I think you have upgraded our quarterback in terms of not having the Mr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and bipolar quarterback. I think you're getting rid of that this year. I think your run game should be a lot better. Your receivers are elite as anyone, especially at the top. Defense, again, should be as good, or at least I think on par, as back in 2016. Very similar, and hopefully, if you're a Bama fan, that's what you want to hear, right? That's what you want to hear if you're a Bama fan. So yeah, I think 10-2 is a reasonable outlook for this team. Zane's best case, and again, I think their worst case is 8-4. Now, again, 8-4 for other teams. Like if you're saying 8-4 is your worst case scenario, or you're just not even that. Just if you're touting 8-4 for like NC State or Virginia or Baylor or Texas A&M or not A&M, Texas Tech, that would be celebrated like you won the Super Bowl. Like that would just be incredible. Like you'd be throwing a ticker tape parade in Lubbock, Texas, and Alabama and Tuscaloosa and anywhere in between. Not really. That would be very disappointing and very underwhelming. So hopefully for Bama fans, it doesn't happen. I think 10-2 as the best case and reasonable. I think that's fair to think that. I know a lot of folks will call me crazy. I think a lot of folks will say, "Oh, you're just a killing the board shill. You're a paid off corporate slug." I guarantee you guys that's none of that. I am not at all a corporate shill. I'm not a Bama shill. I'm not a killing the board shill. I am not. This is independent media we're talking about here. So, but I just think generally that 10-2 is the most reasonable scenario here. I just think that way, and that's not crazy to think that way. I think other folks in the industry who have done this longer than I have in terms of doing shows would agree with me. I think this Bama team, again, defensively should be a lot better than it was last year. Offensively, you're getting rid of the bipolarness of, the quarterback situation. It's more stable. I think, regardless of who it ends up being, whether it's Ty Simpson all year or Keelan Russell, they should be fine. And at least from that standpoint, and I think 10-2 is reasonable here. And if anything less than that, then that, come December, January, that's more of a difficult conversation that needs to be had. And that's all I'll say for that. Get some more water here, and then we'll continue on. We'll wrap up with Q&A here. Interesting stuff to talk about. So yeah, I'm gonna get some water here, and then we'll merrily move along. Yeah, I was getting some morning on Chicken Radar again. So far, rain is spotty, but it's developing again. Like I said, after the show's over, I could literally in an hour from now I'll be pouring down rain and hopefully get some relief because it's been miserable here in Jacksonville. It's been a literal oven out there, and hopefully we get some rain here. And like I said at the top, I've never been so happy to see storms forming. Usually it's a an issue, especially when we're going live here, because again, our studio, if you will, quote unquote, it's not really soundproof. But yeah, never been so happy to see thunder clouds in the distance. So hopefully we get some relief. Q&A time here. First one here, a bit of a interesting situation that happened yesterday regarding Deion Sanders. Thoughts on his news yesterday in his press conference. So it was rumored, and of course, going back, after the draft and the whole Shador thing, there was reports going on about Deion. He wasn't really on campus that much. He was spending more time with his family. Apparently, there was a lot of medical things going on. Again, because of the, I can fix my computer here. Because of the HIPAA stuff, I think my computer just turned off here. Let's see if it's going to come back on. Hopefully you guys on Spotify can still hear me. I know on YouTube you guys can still hear me, but yeah, that's interesting. Just it shut off there. Okay, I guess we'll just keep on trucking along, I guess, even despite that. But so let me just pull up my notes on here, I guess. We'll just have to do it this way. Apologize for that, folks. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, so Deion Sanders stuff. So again, yeah, so it comes out yesterday. There's the whole press conference thing and whatnot. It turns out that they have it, and he apparently had cancer. I guess that was something that was again kept private because of HIPAA stuff. So press conference yesterday, Deion says he's cancer free, and thank God he was. I mean, he had so many rumors going around about potentially him retiring or whatnot, or potentially him stepping away, and that would have been totally a shock to the senses if that did happen. So I'm glad he's still around. I'm glad he's still in college ball, and I'm glad he's doing well now. So thankfully, that was avoided. And like everyone has their own opinions on Deion Sanders. Everyone has their own opinions on the way he does things, or if you don't like the way he handles the portal or some of his in-game stuff. And that's fair to criticize, but him as a person, just the fact he's been through so much, at least in the medical side of things, at least what's been made public. Happy to see him still around. Happy to see him be in college football, and I'm glad that he didn't end up doing what a lot of folks are theorizing, that which was after Shador and Travis left, he was gonna resign and move on. So I'm glad he's still around college football. I'm glad that we have one of not only the best athletes ever in both college and NFL, but also one of the best entertainers in the sport as well. So I'm glad that he's still around. Next one, thoughts on what Kevin Feige said about bringing the original X-Men back for Doomsday. So yeah, so this came out a couple of days ago. Let me go find the actual quote here. Again, since my computer turned off. Again, I don't know if this will be still on Spotify or not, at least on my headsets. I may have to make some changes, but I think it'll be okay. But yeah, let me see. Here's a quote here on Twitter. Yeah, so this is coming from Marvel itself. You can do an interview or whatever. This is from Avengers Updates on Twitter. They say, here's a quote. "It was never a dream that we just didn't think about for many years. Deadpool and Wolverine scratched the surface of that, and now we're really diving into it with Doomsday." And that's coming from the horse's mouth, being Kevin Feige. Not surprised here. Now, like I've told you guys before, and I said this on Twitter on Saturday, not everyone's come back from the original X-Men. And I said this before too in other shows. I don't think everyone's coming back. Not everyone's original cast from those movies, like the first, you have the original X-Men X2 and then X-Men United. I don't, and then you have Days of Future Past with the OG cast. I don't think everyone's coming back, right? For various different reasons. Like, everyone's still thinking that, like, oh, Halle Berry's come back to Storm, and if Anthony Jansen's come back. And look, those two are more likely than some of the others. Like, again, I told you guys this before, and I still kind of think this. Like, for example, Anna Paquin. I don't think she's come back for various reasons. I don't think she's able to come back. Other actors and actresses for other reasons are not coming back. So yeah, I don't think you're getting everyone. Like, everyone's guaranteed to come back, certainly. But at least having the chance to bring back some of the core cast, like James Marsden coming back as Cyclops. You have Ian McKellen come back as Magneto, and Patrick Stewart returning again as Charles. That's good, right? That's great that you're bringing back all of those, classic all-time favorite characters, and I think that's good. And I think it's interesting that, we were hearing all this stuff about, Deadpool and Wolverine a couple years ago before it came out last year that, there's, all these rumors about the OG X-Men coming back and all these actors were going to be there, and it turns out it wasn't true, and they were actually saving that for Doomsday. So I think it is interesting that they did sort of confirm all that. But yeah, I mean, in terms of everyone coming back in, I still don't think everyone's come back. I still think you are going to have some of the notable cast members that are they're not going to be there. And I think for a lot of folks, I think it's at least the ones I've heard, I've seen a lot, like Halle Berry, P. Jansen, Anna Paquin, a few others. I think, who was it? The guy who was in Deadpool and Wolverine, who was the guy who played Pyro. I forget the actor's name. I don't think he's coming back either. Now some of the other ones who have not been mentioned, like Hugh Jackman again, Sam. At least for this move, I don't think he's coming back. Secret Wars is different though. But again, some of the other ones I just mentioned, like I doubt it, but we'll see. I just, the fact that it's not been talked about by a lot of like the Scoopers and Lakers leads me to believe either they're holding back a lot of this stuff and they're keeping it really secretive, or it's just it just is what it is, and they're not going to be in the movie. So yeah, I think those comments are interesting, but we'll see. Last one here. Has YouTube replaced the legacy media? This is an interesting one. So as you guys know, and actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off my computer. So it looks like let me see here. Yeah, so it looks like our audio version, at least on the sets that I'm wearing, I don't think it's going to work out. So let me see. I'm going to have to do this more of a different way here. Again, apologies for this, but yeah, on the audio side of things, let's see if we can try to turn this off. Yeah, maybe that's just shut the computer down here. So yeah, again, the audio version on Spotify looks like it's been a no-go, and let's see, hopefully it's not a total disaster on the computer side of things. So yeah, but yeah, so in terms of YouTube replacing legacy media, yeah, I think it kind of has a little bit. I think you have sort of seen that happen a little bit. I think you have seen legacy media sort of go away, and this is something that's been talked a little bit more, especially with like the exclusion or the cancellation of all of, like the FS1 shows, like that were made recently. I think a lot of folks have sort of felt that way, and I think one of the things about YouTube and sort of overtaking legacy media is that it's the fans, right? It's the fans who sort of control the entire I don't know, I guess like the entire show, right? Like these shows, like for my show in particular, and shows like Josh Payton, Cover 3, those shows are for the fans, right? It's a little bit more different. You're not necessarily governed by the overlords, and you still are for those shows, right? Those are 247 shows, but at least there's more fan interaction with the host. It sort of shows geared towards you, and I think as legacy media, and there's still a lot of good shows out there, like a Colin Cowherd show, and First Things First, shows I do watch for mainly NFL stuff, but it's yeah, I think with YouTube, I think you are starting to see a lot of folks, especially with the podcasting world and how popular it's gotten with people like Joe Rogan, although he's been doing it a lot longer and his is more of a Spotify thing. But in terms of YouTube, yeah, I think it has overtaken legacy media. I think the way the sports world is sort of going towards more of a interactive thing with the fans and more of a select, with fans now being more selective. And I do think too, COVID was definitely in the accelerator in terms of getting certain things placed into motion. And I do think this move from legacy media to YouTube and all these other various platforms is sort of what was going to happen eventually. But I think the whole 2020 stuff sort of accelerated even further because everyone's at home and having more time on their hands and whatnot. So yeah, I think that definitely played a role in it. And now we're seeing it, in full force. And yeah, I do think it's an interesting thing, and hopefully that means more people will be able to have more opportunities, right? It's not a guarantee. Our show is only like a year old or whatever, so we'll see. And that's it for the show. Again, apologies for the audio stuff. I don't know what happened, but I think what we'll do is that if I can get access to my computer, we'll see. But I think what we'll do is we'll just have to just download the file from StreamYard and just have it be I can figure it out. But yeah, it may not be the same quality as it would be on the other headset, so apologies for that. I don't know, one world just happened there. But yeah, so we'll be back hopefully on Thursday. We'll see. I guess now technology permitting. So until then, take care, and we'll see you on the next stream.